What happens when a country makes a deal with a place that, according to the rest of the world, isn't a country at all? This is the real and dangerous situation now unfolding in the Horn of Africa. The source of this tension is Somaliland, a self-declared republic on the Gulf of Aden, at the center of a geopolitical storm. Since 1991, Somaliland has operated with its own government and military, maintaining stability while the rest of Somalia struggled. Yet, no country officially recognizes Somaliland, fearing it could encourage other separatist movements. Ethiopia, landlocked and dependent on Djibouti's ports, pays dearly for sea access, over $1.5 billion a year. Desperate for its own route to the sea, Ethiopia saw opportunity in Somaliland's isolation. The result, a high-stakes deal that shattered the status quo and ignited a regional crisis. The question was no longer if Ethiopia would act, but when and how. When Ethiopia finally made its move, it sent shockwaves across the region. The dispute now threatens to pull in regional powers and global giants, challenging the very idea of borders and sovereignty. The Horn of Africa stands on the brink, its future uncertain. In January 2024, Ethiopia signed a landmark deal with Somaliland, a 50-year lease on a stretch of coastline at Berbera, in exchange for a promise to consider recognizing Somaliland's independence. For Somaliland, this was a breakthrough, potential legitimacy after decades of isolation, plus economic benefits from port and railway investments. For Ethiopia, it meant a shot at sovereign sea access and reduced dependence on Djibouti. Somalia's response was immediate and furious, calling the deal a violation of its sovereignty and recalling its ambassador. Tensions escalated when Israel became the first UN member to recognize Somaliland, drawing condemnation from the African Union and sparking further diplomatic fallout. Somalia canceled agreements with the UAE, accusing Ethiopia of trying to dismember the country. What began as a bilateral deal quickly spiraled into a regional crisis, with the threat of wider conflict looming. The Horn of Africa was now a flashpoint for international confrontation. The Ethiopia-Somaliland deal split the region into rival blocs. Ethiopia, the UAE, and Israel backed Somaliland, seeking strategic and economic gains in the Red Sea corridor. Opposing them, Somalia is supported by Egypt, its rival over Nile waters, along with Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Eritrea. The Horn of Africa, at the gateway to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, is now a battleground for global trade and influence. The U.S. is divided, escalating airstrikes in Somalia, but unsure whether to recognize Somaliland. China firmly backs Somalia's sovereignty. Non-state actors are also involved. Yemen's Houthis threaten attacks if Israel establishes a presence in Somaliland. What started as a port deal has become a complex web of rivalries, with the risk of conflicts spilling into global shipping lanes. The stakes have never been higher for the region, or the world. The risk of open conflict is rising fast. Egypt is sending troops to Somalia's borders. Ethiopia is moving forces into Somali regions, bringing two powerful armies dangerously close. Internal Somali divisions are deepening, with renewed fighting between federal forces and regional militias. Diplomatic efforts, like Turkey's Ankara Declaration, have failed to halt the slide toward war. The African Union's calls for restraint are being tested as never before. At its core, this crisis is about more than a port. It's a challenge to Africa's borders and the right to self-determination. If Somaliland gains recognition, separatist movements across Africa could be emboldened. If war erupts, the Horn of Africa could face a generation of instability. The world is watching, as the region's fate hangs in the balance.